Hello, everyone. Welcome to KCS at Home Summer Edition. I am Miss Clark, and I will be teaching Activity 1 of Elementary Reading. Let's get started. Here are some tips if you are watching this video on YouTube. Turn on closed captions if they're available. Adjust the playback speed to slow down the video. Number 3 is a great tip. Consider watching short clips, then pause, listen, and watch again. This is especially helpful during reading. You may want to pause and underline, take notes, looking for those details. And number 4, ask someone in your home to watch the video with you. Stop frequently and talk to your partner about what you heard and understood. This helps with understanding and comprehension. Let's start with some C.A.R.E review. The first pattern I'm going to look at are two consonants, the K and N. When I see the K and the N together, two letters, but the K is silent. I do not hear it. There's only one sound, two letters, one sound. And my keyword is knight, like a knight in shining armor. So let's take our magic pencil and write our letters in the air. K-N. K-N. Keyword is night. And the sound is N. When I see the K-N, remember the K is silent. N is what I hear. The next pattern that I'm looking at is the G-N, which also makes that N sound. Now, don't confuse this one with N-G, ng sound. In this pattern, G-N, the G comes first, and it is silent. Two letters, one sound, as in the word sign, like a stop sign. Take your magic pencil. G-N, sign, Great job. Let's use these patterns to decode or read some words. Now, you're going to look at some of these words and think they are very simple and easy to read, but remember, in C.A.R.E, our goal is to learn those rules of phonics so that we can apply them into all that we read. Even when we get older, when we see those larger words, we can use the patterns, the rules of phonics that we have learned to decode those words. Let's look at our first word. The first thing I want to do is identify the vowel sound. So I'm going to underline E-E because I know that makes the E sound. And the next thing I'm going to do is draw a smiley face under my K-N. That's the pattern that I'm working with. Now let's stretch and read this word. N-E. Slide it together. Knee. And in your normal speaking voice, knee. We are reading each word 3 times. Underline that vowel, ah. Smiley face under the G-N, n. Stretch, n-at. Slide, nat, and normal, nat. Ah, n, ah. Knock, knock, ash, nash, nash. That's a word you don't hear very often, but you may have heard it in a book, or you may have heard someone use the phrase gnash their teeth. That means that you're grinding them or mashing them together. Gnash. Ah, knack, knack, knack. If you have a knack for something, you are very good at it. My grandson has a knack for playing baseball. I, ein, sign, sign. Ah, ought, not, Not. Be careful. This word is a homophone. It sounds like the word not, N-O-T. They sound the same, but they are spelled differently and they mean something different. This is the kind of knot you might tie your shoestrings in a knot. This word has two vowels. That tells me that it also has two syllables. I know two syllables. I know that every syllable has a vowel sound. Look at, I know the I is going to say I. I see the word sign. We just read it above. Look at that first vowel, the E though. Is it going to say E or is it going to say eh? If I divide these syllables, I see that that first syllable part ends with an E, with a vowel. When my syllable, my word part ends in a vowel, that means it's an open syllable and the vowel sound is long. So that E is going to say E. De-sign, de-sign, de-sign. That doesn't sound exactly right, does it? But I know a word that is similar. It is the word design. So we're going to use our flex rule to read this word, design. And finally, O, O, no, no. I know a good story. Let's use what we have learned to read. As we read, remember that fluent readers read smoothly in their normal speaking voice, accurately getting all those words correct and with expression. Let's read. I like to write, and I think I am pretty good at writing. Sometimes our teacher has us read our writing for our class. That scares me. My knees start to knock, my limbs tremble, and I gnash my teeth. Why does reading my writing make me go numb? Why does it tie me in knots? When I read my writing, it does not sound dumb. Do kids think I have a knack for writing? The kids are smiling. They must like it. Notice that I underlined all of the words with a K-N sound and G-N sound. I see the word knees, knock, gnash, knots, and knack. Keep reading so that you become a fluent reader. Let's look at our essential question for this unit. We're talking about what it means to be responsible. What does it mean to be responsible? Let's look at the word responsible. A responsible person is someone you can trust and depend on. Let's look at an example. I asked a responsible friend to feed my dogs when I was away. I have dogs. When I go away, I have to ask someone to watch them. I want to make sure they are well cared for. I want to make sure they are fed and someone is treating them well. So I make sure that it is a responsible person, someone I can trust and depend on. This is our essential question for this lesson. Why should we be responsible for doing a good job? Let's think a little bit more. Let's use these pictures to think. Why should we be responsible for doing a good job? I see a picture of a baseball team. How are they responsible for doing a good job? Well, I know in order for a team to be successful, they must all work together. This team is holding up a trophy. I think they have used teamwork and they have all been responsible for doing a good job and they are successful. Look at the girl brushing her teeth. How does that show responsibility? We are responsible for taking care of ourselves. Brushing our teeth is part of taking care of ourselves. We are responsible for doing a good job. And finally, look at the picture of the little girl. She looks like she is just learning to walk. And I wonder, I think the boy behind her is her brother. That girl depends on her brother to help her. And he is responsible for doing a good job with someone who depends on him. So let's look back at our essential question. Why should we be responsible for doing a good job? We said that we must help those who depend on us. We need to be a team player. We need to care for ourselves. And I'm going to add one more. We need to keep our community safe. That's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about a community helper who is responsible for doing a good job and keeping our community safe. Our learning target for today, as we read, we will revisit our learning target. We want to keep it in mind so that we can look for details as we read. Think about how firefighters are responsible when they fight fires. Use details from the text to write your own narrative story about firefighters fighting a fire. So at the end of today's lesson, you will be writing your own narrative story about a firefighter, a responsible firefighter. So we need to read our text to find out how firefighters are responsible for doing a good job. We're going to take notes or underline as we find those details so that we can use them to write our text. This is our success criteria. These are the things we need to do in order to be successful with our writing. We need to read the text to find evidence of firefighters being responsible. We will take notes. You may underline. You may stop the video and take notes. We will write a narrative with details, those details that we've just read about, to describe actions, thoughts, and feelings. We're going to use temporal words or time order signal words to show the sequence of events. In my narrative, I want to show my reader the order in which things happen. Sequence the events. That means I need to use those special time order signal words. Here are some examples. First, next, then, last, finally, before, and after. And last, my narrative needs a sense of closure, an ending. How will my story end? The first thing we're going to do is read our text and look for details about how firefighters are responsible for doing a good job. The title of this text is My Uncle, the Firefighter. This story is a realistic fiction. It's not a true story, but it could really happen. As we read, we will look for details that tell us about how firefighters are responsible and work together to fight fires. Let's read to find out about Uncle Ernie's responsibilities as a firefighter. Let's read. Read with me. My Uncle Ernie works hard as a firefighter in our town. He puts out brush fires and house fires. He helps at car wrecks. He saves people. Lot of details in that part that we just read. So what are Uncle Ernie's responsibilities as a firefighter? The text says he puts out brush fires and house fires. That's an important detail. I want to underline it. You may want to take notes. Are there any other details? He helps at car wrecks. That's right. Not only do firefighters help at car put out fires, they also help at car wrecks. And finally, he saves people. That's very important. So these are some great details that you might want to put in your notes that tell us how firefighters are responsible for doing a good job. Let's keep reading. Remember, how are firefighters responsible when they fight fires? Let's read a little more to find out about Ernie's responsibilities as a firefighter. One morning, Uncle Ernie took me to the fire station. The fire station had a hose truck and a ladder truck. Uncle Ernie let me try on his heavy coat, helmet, and boots. I got to stand on the back of the fire truck. Then the firefighters had a drill. They practiced with the hoses. Looking at this section, do you see details that tell me how Uncle Ernie is responsible for doing a good job as a firefighter? Let's first ask, what did the author see at the fire station? A hose truck, a ladder truck, coat, helmet, and boots. I'm going to use my background knowledge. I know that these are tools that a firefighter uses, and he must keep them clean and ready to go. When that fire alarm sounds, my fire trucks, the hose truck and the ladder truck, need to be clean with gas in them. That's being responsible. I also know that my firefighter wears a coat, helmet, and boots to protect him. That's another detail that tells me he is responsible. What did the firefighters do during the drill? They practiced with the hoses. That tells me that they are responsible. When I read that they practiced with the hoses, that tells me they are being responsible by learning and getting better at their job. So all of these are important details that tell me how firefighters are responsible for doing a good job. Let's keep reading to find out more ways they are responsible when they fight fires. Let's read this section to find out how Uncle Ernie acted bravely during a fire. Later, a firefighter named Jack told me a story. Your uncle is very brave. He went into a burning house to get people out. When he saw their dog inside, he went back in to rescue it. I was very proud of Uncle Ernie. I liked visiting the fire station. My Uncle Ernie is a great firefighter. So in this section, let's look. How was Uncle Ernie brave during the fire? Do you see text evidence that tells you how he was brave? What did he do that showed bravery? That's right. He went into a burning house to get people out. Then when he saw their dog inside, he went back to rescue it. Is that being responsible for doing a good job? Absolutely. More evidence. Make sure you underline or add this to your notes. This is a very important detail that tells me how he is responsible. So, before we start our writing, let's review. How are firefighters responsible when they fight fires? Let's recall those details that we underlined or took notes. We read that they put out brush and house fires. They help at car wrecks. They make sure equipment is ready. Remember those hose truck and the ladder truck, their helmets, their boots, all of their equipment must be ready. They also practiced with the hoses to make sure they could use that equipment properly and to get better. And finally, they saved people and animals. All of these are details, text evidence that we found. We can now use these details in our narrative to write a story. So let's go back to our writing task, our learning target. This is now our writing task. Think about how firefighters are responsible when they fight fires. Use details from the text to write your own narrative story about firefighters fighting a story. This is your task. So let's take a look at what that may look like. Here are some things your narrative writing is going to need. You will need to provide details. Those details are the notes that you took, the ones we just reviewed. Use those details. Now, as you write, you're going to want to add some words that will describe the actions, what's happening in your story. You will want to use some adjectives to describe the thoughts and the feelings of the firefighters and or the people who are being saved in your story. Remember, you will also want to use those temporal words or those time order signal words to show the sequence of events. Your narrative must be in order. What happened first, next, then, last, finally, before, after. There are many temporal or time order words that you can use to show the sequence of events, the order in which things happened. There's the example of some of our temporal words. And finally, your narrative is going to need a sense of closure. You need to write a closing. How is your story going to end? So let's take a look at my graphic organizer. You may want to use this form. If it helps you, let's look through it and talk through it. The first thing you're going to write is your character. Who is your story about? Is it about a firefighter? Obviously. You may want to give your firefighter a name. You may want to add one or two more people in your story. You may put them here under the characters. The setting tells me when and where your story, your narrative takes place. Now remember, don't forget to use those adjectives to describe your setting so that your reader feels like they are actually there. And the next thing you're going to do is start with the beginning. In the beginning, this is where you tell the who, when, and where. Now go back up to the two boxes above, the characters and the setting. This is where I will want to write a couple of sentences in which I introduce my character to the reader. I tell when and where my story takes place. In the middle of my story, I'm going to tell what happened. Again, using those details from your notes. Use those details in your narrative to tell what is happening. Don't forget to describe thoughts, actions, and feelings in your story. And finally, your story, your narrative needs an ending, a sense of closure. How does your narrative end? This is your ending. Let's take a look at your writing checklist. These are all of the things that you need to make your writing the best it can be. You need details from the text. We did that together. You need a concluding sentence or closing. How will your narrative end? Don't forget to use your best handwriting, always using your best handwriting. Don't forget those capitals and punctuation, very important. Check your spelling. Use all the resources you have to check your spelling. Do your best. And use complete sentences. Make sure that those sentences begin with a capital letter and end with your punctuation. This is your checklist. Make sure you're writing after you finish. Go back with this checklist and make sure you have all of these things in your narrative. Let's talk for a few minutes about some other things your writing needs. The first one is FANBOYS. This is a coordinating conjunction. These make our writing better. So I'm going to tell you what a FANBOY is. A FANBOY is an acronym. Each letter of FANBOY stands for a word. The F stands for for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. On the next slide, we're going to talk about how to use these FANBOYS, but I want you to be familiar with them. These are coordinating conjunctions. We're going to use them to link or connect two sentences together. For, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. Let's see how we're going to use these words. We are going to write some compound sentences. We can combine two simple sentences to make one longer sentence. Let's look at an example. My birthday party is Saturday. It will be fun. Now, these are two simple sentences, one subject and one predicate in each one. I can combine those sentences to make a longer one. My birthday party is Saturday and it will be fun. This is a better sentence. This is called a compound sentence. It has two subjects, two predicates. I took those two sentences and put them together with a coordinating junction, and. Now, why did I use and? I use and because I'm connecting these two sentences that are connected. I'm describing my birthday party as fun, and so I'm going to use that conjunction, that coordinating conjunction in this sentence. Don't forget to use a comma at the end of the first sentence before your and there is my coordinating conjunction, my FANBOY. All right, thinking back, why should we be responsible for doing a good job? That's right, all of those things we talked about. I can't wait to hear about your writing, your narrative writing. Here's an extension idea. If you finish, you may want to read a book, use Epic, or find another resource to read about another community helper. Write a narrative to tell a story about how this worker is responsible for doing a good job. And if you need some ideas, here are some other community helpers. There's a crossing guard, doctors, mechanics, policemen, a hairdresser, a nurse, a vet, a plumber, a teacher, and a chef. These are all community helpers. You can write another narrative using one of these community helpers. Thank you for tuning in. Again, I am Miss Clark for KCS Summer at Home. Thank you. Stay safe and stay healthy.